My name is Colin Joseph Nicholas Chauret. My rank in the military is a retired colonel now, with a full colonel of the USAF. I served 5 years in the Army Air Corps before I became the United States Air Force. Then I served another 26 years in the Air Force. My age as of tomorrow, the 25th of January 2023. One day from today, I'll be 100 years old, if I make it.
So Grandpa, how do you make a White Russian?
A White Russian is made with love to start with. First of all, 2 shots of vodka, 1 shot of Kahlua, and 1 shot of half and half cream.
What was special about the White Russian compared to vodka?
It was easy to taste, didn't taste like booze. It was good tasting. It was like drinking a soda.
So we're actually having Elena is making us some White Russians. Will you have one with us?
Certainly.
All right. What was your childhood like in Bay City?
It was fantastic. I was loved so much by my mother and father. My daddy was illiterate. He couldn't read or write, couldn't sign his name till my mother taught him how to sign his name. My childhood in Bay City was with 2 very protective and loving parents. I was taught what was good and what was wrong, and I tried to do that at that time to the best of my capability. I knew that I was loved very much by them, and I knew how much they cared for me. And I would try to return that love and care as the best I could do by doing things they wanted me to do and not doing things they didn't want me to do. When I joined the Air Force, Army Air Corps at that time, in September the 22nd of 1942, I went to pilot training in March of 43 and got my wings and my second lieutenant commission January the 7th of 1944.
What did that mean to your father?
It meant this. My father was a very poor man, undereducated, was a janitor in the most expensive dry goods store, Wendland's in Bay City, Michigan. And the fact that his son was an officer and all the other people that were in that building that had sons, none of them made officer. So he was proud of the fact that his son was an officer.
What were some examples of the things that they wanted you to do? What did they want you to do?
Well, first of all, they wanted me to be honest, not lie. Second of all, if I drank, drink moderately. Don't smoke. My dad smoked, and he died and paid for it by dying when he was 58 years old with a heart attack. My White Russians, God bless you.
Excellent.
Love you, Grandpa.
Cheers.
Love you, Grandpa.
Cheers.
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 We're celebrating you. Celebrating you.
There we go.
White Russians with Grandpa.
Right, Russian.
That's
right.
Can't be beat.
It cannot be beaten.
Would you put that down? I think in my personality, I most resemble my mother. But I think in my other side of my father, what I learned in him is what I could do to become better.
What, in terms of your mother's personality, do you see in yourself?
My mother was not afraid to talk to anybody. And I find that she gave me the capability to express myself to anybody I met and how I felt, honestly, whether they liked it or not. You want to know about my relationship with Madeline and how it started. The first time I saw Madeline, I was in the 5th grade and she was in the 7th grade. And I got a crush on her. She would not talk to me. She would do nothing to be. She hated me. As a matter of fact, she hated me so much But when she was in the 8th grade, I was in the 6th grade, I sent her a Valentine's card with a pickle on it, and according to this pickle, I said, it's sweet compared to you. Now, in that time period, also, I used to go to the neighborhood, which was about 15 or 20 kids there. We all hung out together. And we had one thing we played was spin the bottle for what you guys read. We all sit in a circle, man, boy, boy, girl, 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 and spin the tail. And I spun it one time, and it pointed to Madeline. And boy, I was so happy, because we were supposed to go behind the screen and kiss. She would not kiss me. I went home in tears. Also, when I knew she hated me, in the house I lived in, we had an apple tree in the front of the yard. And I used to get up in that apple tree when I knew she was going to go to work as a bookkeeper while she was going to school at her brother's shop, which is the garage.
How old was she at this time?
Oh, she was about, I'd say, 12, 14 years of age.
And how old were you?
10, 12. I'd get up in this tree and watch her go by and look at her with amazement and love. She was a year and a half to the day older than me. So she was 2 classes ahead of me. So she went to a parochial Catholic high school while I went to a public high school. She graduated 2 years ahead of me. And I was delivering newspapers from the time I was 10 years of age till 18 when I finished high school. And when I used to deliver a newspaper at her house, unbeknownst to me, towards the tail end, she got a crush on me. And she had a diary she kept saying, I saw him again, he's delivered the newspaper today, and how much she loved me. I did not know that at that time. So I went on to high school, and I went steady off and on with 4 different girls, not all at the same time. So when it come time to graduate from high school, I said, I'd like to take somebody special. I wonder if Madeline would consider this. Now, this is out of the blue. I had been delivering newspapers there for years. So I walked up, and she came to the door. I said, Madeline, will you do me the honor of accompanying me to my high school graduation? She said, yes, I would be happy to. Now, at that time, she was 1 month short of 20. So she was a woman among children. And I was so proud of having this beautiful woman say, look what I got. Consequently, we fell in love from that point on, right away. And when we did, I started a diary that I kept on every date we had, what we did. And she stopped keeping a diary, which she showed to me later, which referred to me as the paper boy and how much she cared for me. What was between the two of us that was special? Love, period. You don't know why you love a person, and you don't know why that person loves you, except that it's beautiful to know that somebody you love loves you, and somebody that at one time wouldn't kiss you or wouldn't even talk to you, actually hated you, became to love you like Madeline loved me. My wedding day, Madeline and my mother, Violet Chauret, came to the wedding. We were married on a Sunday, which meant that I could not have off-night post with my wife. My wedding night was spent as a cadet at Fort Stockton Gibbs Field as an aviation cadet. And my wife, Madeline, that night shared the same bed that my mother did.
Did you make it up to grandmother that she spent her wedding night with your mother?
How about 9 kids? What was it like to see my first child? I don't think I was as relieved as I was to know that Madeline came through it okay, without any problems. That was my first concern. And Sharon, of course, being my first child, was the love of our life. We watched her grow up, and we watched her be our only child for 4 years till Margaret was born.
When you met your half-sisters, having grown up as an only child, what did that feel like?
Wonderful. Because all my life, I wanted brothers and sisters. everybody that's alone wants to have somebody to share their love with their parents. It hurt because I didn't have. When I found out about this, I became so happy. I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. I was so happy. And when I met them, unbelievable love between us all.
You were an only child until you met them. But then you had 9 kids of your own. Did any of this, how you grew up, impact why you had 9 kids?
Well, let me put it this way. I didn't have 9 children by choice. My wife was a Catholic, and we used nothing to prevent them. And being a very Romanist man, and very, shall we say, sexy, we had them.
Do you have a favorite son or daughter?
No. I would never tell you.
Favorite grandson?
I would never tell you if I did.
Did you change diapers, Grandpa?
When Madeline was in the hospital having another baby, I had to change the diapers of the babies that were there. What I disliked most of all, which would happen quite frequently, particularly in wintertime, is these young kids that I got all dressed up in a warm clothes would say, "Daddy, I gotta go to the bathroom." Or I just did. That was not fun. That was a pain in the ass. Madeline took care of all those problems. She took care of the family. When I was in combat or whatever I was, I never worried about how the kids were being taken care of, because Madeline was an outstanding mother. When I'd come home, say like for instance I'd been TDY, gone for a week or so, temporary duty, come back and she'd say, "So-and-so did something bad. I want you to take care of it." So what I'd do is I'd talk to the kid, put him on restriction, and right after I put him on restriction, I went back to work. She'd take it off and say, "You know how your daddy is." I did not like that. Some of the problems with the family? Well, let me give you some of the funny parts. One was when I was in Greece, flying with the Greek Air Force. My boss, my immediate boss, a full colonel named Jim Bucky, was going to check out in the F-84F, which I was also flying. And we had to, when we went, we had to go to a Greek academy where there was no heat in the wintertime. And you sat there freezing while you're cold all the time, while you went through this day of everything about the F-84F. Then when we came home and we got done about 2 in the afternoon, instead of going back to the office, we both went home, which was unusual for me to come home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But we both wanted to get warm again. So I get in bed with Madeline to get warm. And I'm laying in there, I'm all covered up to here, and in comes Keith from school. And I catch him point, "Who's that?" I said, "Who the hell do you think it is?" Another funny thing that happened. When we were in Greece, Mark and Mike were playing with the bows and arrows, a wooden bow and arrow. And the arrow ended up on the top of the garage door. The garage, flat top. So Mark got up there and got it. Mike came in and said, "Hey, you know that arrow we had? It was up on the top of the roof of the garage. We got it back, but let me tell you, Mark is still up there." So they had to go get the gardener to get him down. I think of all my children, Sharon would have more of my characteristics than any of the others, by far.
In what way is that?
Inquisitive about life and being able to understand things and take them apart to understand them better, and that she has a capability to do things that I do that is passed on to her in particular.
Who's the most like Grandma Madeline?
Deborah.
What do you see in
She looks just like her. And she's a lot like her in her religion that she believes in. That's not the same. She's a born-again Christian. But Madeline was a born Catholic and a strong Catholic. And they have a lot of characteristics in the way they think and what they do.
And what about Aunt Margot?
No, Margot's nothing like her mother. Margot is a very quiet individual and very forgiving of everything and quite docile compared to what Madeline was. To give you an idea of the sense of humor that Madeline had, my wife, was we were at a party one time, and normally I'm the last one to want to go home. But that night I was tired, and Madeline, my wife, was having a ball. It was at Randolph Air Force Base, and I said to her, "Come on, Madeline, let's go home." She says, "No, I'm having." I said, "Mother of 9, let's go home." She said, "Yes, father of 7," in front of all these colonels and generals. Madeline, let me tell you, Madeline had a sense of humor that would not quit.
What was your first inkling or idea that you wanted to fly? Where did that come from?
When did I want to fly and when did I learn I wanted to fly? I was about 6 years of age and saw some movies of what they call were pursuit aircraft and aces, Eddie Rickenbacker, and the German aces and the French Richthofen. And I said, boy, that's what I want to do when I grow up. I was 6 years old. Now I realized my dream coming true when I got my wings in 1944. However, when I first graduated, I was set to be an instructor pilot, and that was hard to take, which after a while I accepted, and I instructed in all 3 phases of flying before I got to my fighters.
What was your first choice? You said the 15th choice was to be a trainer, the 16th choice was to do this.
I've forgotten what it was, but it was a fighter. Probably a Thunderbolt in those days. Then the Mustang, which was a great air fighter because it wasn't too well known. And then the P-38, which was a twin engine fighter, which I wasn't so interested in flying.
Would you have been, with your first, second, or third choice, would you have been in combat in Europe?
Yes. If I had got my first choice, since it was January of 44, I would eventually ended up predominantly, if it had been the P-51 or the Thunderbolt in Germany, flying combat.
What were the odds of fighter pilots flying combat in Germany in 1944?
Pretty slim. The loss of pilots and getting in at that time, which would have been probably around 100 missions, was 1 in 3 chances of making it.
Did you feel like it was what motivated you, knowing that you had a child, a wife? Was it patriotism? Was it like, I can do this, this is the way that I'm going to contribute to my country? Or was it just, I love doing this?
I love doing it. I love flying fighters. I didn't care whether I was shooting at people or shooting at me. Just to be in a fighter cockpit was an answer to life for me. There's a certain thrill when you push the throttle forward on a single engine fighter that you know, man, this is a chance in a lifetime. I may not make it. I think it was putting your life on the line and doing the thing you like to do and the fun of it.
Can you tell us about your 2 distinguished flying crosses and how you earned them?
I don't remember how I earned these 2 distinguished flying crosses, but while I was in Korea, I led a lot of missions as a captain, spot major, which is a combat promotion, and in several cases I led 52 aircraft into combat, and all of them got back safely. So perhaps those were the missions I was given the Distinguished Flying Crosses on, because we had a successful mission and lost no aircraft.
That is quite a feat. Actually, if you think about that in combat, to lead 50, did you have a certain technique or?
Yes. I was good, my technique was good at what I did. I knew how to brief the mission. I knew I could recognize the target immediately. I didn't have to circle, so we're in and out as fast as we can before the enemies know we're even there. My favorite aircraft of all airplanes to fly was the P-51 Mustang. And let me tell you, every pilot I've ever talked to, no matter what he's flown, 99% of them will say, my favorite aircraft was the P-51. I have a friend of mine who's a retired Major General that used to work for me as a first lieutenant, and I was a captain. He was one of my flight commanders. Yeah, and he flew the SR-71, which was flown over Russia at 70,000 feet at Mach 2 or 3. Yeah, they were up at 2,000 miles an hour across Russia before we had satellites that were taking pictures. He loved the P-51 like I did. When you got in that aircraft, you weren't getting in. You were putting it on. You were the heart and soul of the airplane. You became its mind, its life, its love. And it became part of you. In the early part of 47, 48, and 49, we were allowed to put on the fuselage, on the nose section of the aircraft, favorite names. I had one with Chauret on it, which was a P-51. I had one, a different model, which was a D model. The other one I had Chauret on was a P-51H. This one, the D model, I put Madeline's nickname on it, Dynamite, with a stick of dynamite exploding on it. Now, later on in our careers, long before I got into jet, they stopped doing that, putting names on aircraft. At that time, there was nothing in life to me that gave me the feeling and the adrenaline as flying fighters. That to me was the epitome of life. I'm talking about what I'm doing with my life as a military man. To me, that was everything. Now I knew there was a certain amount of dangerousness. Well, let me give you an idea. In peacetime flying, of my last 2 years flying conventional fighters, the P-51, we lost 9 pilots who was killed in accident. In my first 2 years of flying jets, we lost another 9 pilots, all pilot era. That meant in those 2 years, there was 100 pilots in one group, we lost 9 of. In the next group, we lost 9 in 2 years. That means if you spend 30 years flying and your time came up, you'd never make it. That's different today. They've forgotten more about professionalism than we ever know. And pilots have graduated like in Keith's class, both Keith's classes. They're more professional, they knew more, they had more restrictive regulation on what they did. In our day and age, you could get away with buzzing and only get your ass chewed out. Today, you could lose your wings. One mission I flew was probably the most scary mission, including all 100 combat missions. When I was flying over the North Atlantic in January of '51 at 35,000 feet with no pressurization and no heat for 2 hours. My pressurization system had gone out. That means instead of having a cockpit with pressurization down to 10 or 12,000 feet, which makes it easy to breathe and easy to talk on a radio, that at 35,000 feet, you're short of breath, you're breathing hard, you're taking in a lot of oxygen from your system, and you're not able to communicate as easily as you were at 10,000 feet, or if the cockpit pressure was at 10 or 12,000 feet.
What were you doing over what time period was this? What were you
Okay,
doing?
it was in early January of 1951 when we went from Albany, Georgia, Turner Air Force Base to England to be stationed at Manston, England. And at Manston, England, we were to fly missions with the British Air Force. We had 2 missions we flew. We'd take off and go over the North Atlantic and probably go all the way to, say, Denmark, and then come back at 40,000 feet and let the British bounce us like we were enemy bombers. We also went out way over the sea and came in at 500 feet to get to their fields without them detecting us. That was fun. What is it like to get into an airplane? Now, I have flown one aircraft that's the epitome of flying, the P-51D Mustang. I've flown other aircraft that I just fly because I have to fly. One is a T-39 Superjet. It had 6 passengers and a pilot and a co-pilot. Getting in that is no more exciting than driving a car. It's just like a piece of cake. Nothing to it. Nothing to worry about. And boring. To put your heart and soul into an aircraft that you get into and wrap around you is the epitome of excitement for me, of the joy of living. Let's put it this way, in flying a P-50 West-9, from the time you took off to the time you landed was a thrill. Even when you're flying straight and level. This is it. This is the epitome of flying. Gear gone because I dropped it. Props gone because I dropped it. But this was the fun aircraft. When I made colonel over in Vietnam, at that time in headquarters, 7th Air Force, they had latrines or bathrooms, restrooms, for senior officers and generals. Otherwise, you use the one everybody else used, both enlisted men up to lieutenant colonel. So when I made full colonel, there's a picture of it, I think, in my book. I came out and said, the seat was made of fur.
So how many children do you have? How many grandchildren?
I have 28 grandchildren. The last count on great-grandchildren was 40 plus. And on great-great-grandchildren, I have no clue.
And how many children do you have? Do you know?
I have 8 living. I lost Michael 2 years ago. Terrible. It's horrible to watch a child die.
For those who may actually be experiencing loss like you have, do you have any words of compassion or advice for somebody who might be losing a child or losing a spouse?
That they're going to have to go to their own God, what they believe in their faith, and ask for help. You know, even losing Madeline, the way I saw her go, and still loved her, was not easy. But watching Kitty go, the way she went and taking care of her up to the last few days in hospice was tough.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, I do.
Why?
If I didn't believe in God, I'd be afraid to live and afraid to die. I believe in God, period. I believe in all faiths that are taught other than cults, whether they be Christian, Hebrew, other people that have religious beliefs. Whether it's self-made and that they believe in a God is important for life. To not believe in something like that is scary, because that means when the book closes, that's it.
It's just amazing to me that you remember as much as you remember and how
Take
how
for
with
instance,
it you are.
How many people, like take for instance in my book, I know 18 or 20 of children I used to play with and run around with when I was 13, 14, 15 years of age, Madeline included. I remember all their names, first and last, and also their nicknames. Like Madeline, Dynamite. Albert Hill, Bunker. Dolores Mayville, Junk Pile. And just people I knew when they were kids and I played with.
What was your nickname?
Collie and Cottontail.
Cottontail.
I don't know why Cottontail.
Cottontail.
Did you run fast?
Huh?
Did you run fast? Like a bunny? Did
He
you run?
bred like a bunny.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
I think we're almost
Well,
at a wrap.
Mr. Cottontail, sir, we've been doing this for about 3 hours now. And I just
What are you going to do with it?
spread it around the world and hopefully inspire
Well, I'm in
peace,
deep
love,
ass
and joy.
trouble. I'm in deep ass trouble.
But we are all in the amazing position to be the first to wish you a happy birthday.
Happy
Oh,
birthday.
that's right. Oh my
Hey, is it
God.
midnight?
It's,
Should we
it,
sing
it
that?
is.
Happy birthday.
I'm 100 years old.
Happy birthday. Let's give him some love.
From your oldest granddaughter.
No, not your oldest.
The oldest one here.
Right? Okay. I love you, Grandpa.
Back at you. Thank you for your kindness.
I'm not
and
gonna
your
kiss
pa-
you, but I'm gonna give you a
If you
firm
kiss-
handshake.
If you kiss
you
me,
taught me
I'm
how
gonna.
to give me a.
If you kiss me, I'm gonna giggle. Kurt?
It's an honor.
Honor.
Should we
Thank
sing him a
you.
happy birthday? You ready?
Okay.
Yep. Here we go.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cottontail. Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
Normally, PSA for somebody my age has to be below 6.5 before you worry about cancer of the prostate. Well, I already got cancer of the prostate. There aren't many men alive that are 90 years old that don't have it. But they got my PSA down to 0.3. That's the lowest it's ever been. My testosterone is so low, no woman has to worry about me.
I find that hard to believe.
I know.
Oh, yes. As I told you, that man said to me, "Are you hitting on my wife?" And I told you about that one, didn't I? And I said to him, "What with?" Now, I've been very open on this. There's things I've done I'm not proud of. There's things I ask for every night, forgiveness for, that God will forgive me and that Madeline will forgive me.
I think Grandmother Madeline had a part in getting us all together to celebrate you.
That's true.
What is the most important thing in life? To love and be loved by your closest friends and your family. That's the most important thing. Without love, you got nothing. You don't have a reason to live. What do I want my great-grandchildren, some that are not even born yet, to have and know from me? First of all, freedom of life does not come for free. My hopes for them is to have the same kind of freedom I've had all my life with the country I live in, which I'm afraid day by day they're losing a little bit of. We have to vote for people that will give us that. The people who understand that their own personal lives are not what's important. It's what they do as politicians for our country.